Discussion Guide for Ecological Civilization is a tool to help facilitate small group dialogue for changing the story, our values and our worldviews, and changing the system, our structures and our policies, for the long-term well-being of people and the planet, what we call an ecological civilization. Building on the insights of sustainability expert Fred Kirschenman, this solutions-oriented conference, the Claremont Eco Forum, will consider questions like, what do we think we know? What is the narrative that informs our interpretation of the world that we live in? What kind of difference do we want to make? And how can we begin to make that difference? The core features of the kind of solutions that we're looking for include long-term orientation. We need solutions that provide lasting results, and this entails solving today's problems in a way that considers long-term effects. We also need solutions that address root causes, not just immediate symptoms. This entails changing the values and the worldviews, as well as the systems and structures that guide current human communities. We need cross-sector integration. We need solutions that recognize the interconnection of our complex social and environmental challenges. And this entails working across sectors and across specializations on integrative and holistic solutions. And finally, we need stakeholder collaboration. We need solutions that are both bottom-up and top-down, solutions that are guided by a common vision, but are tailored to specific context. This entails solutions that are collaborative in nature, engaging relevant stakeholders like you. This year's Claremont Eco Forum will span over 6 days, each day focusing on a specific theme. Day 1 is on politics, law, and governance in a world that works for all. Day 2 will take a look at economies for well-being and planetary flourishing. Day 3 will focus on food and farming for future generations. Day 4 on education and sustainability for social change. Day 5 on rethinking communities and cultures for the common good. And finally, Day 6 on youth and the ecological generation will be a synthesis of all 5 earlier topics with a special consideration of leadership from younger voices. Now that's the overview, and here's how we're going to use the discussion guide. This year's Claremont Eco Forum is interactive and participatory, so each day will include 2 hours of working groups. The task of these groups is to explore and articulate the vision, the values, the policies, and the actions needed to transition to an ecological civilization. These small groups are self-led, so we created this discussion guide as a flexible framework to provide some overarching cohesion. Each 2-hour session will be guided by 5 key questions. Who are we? Where are we? How did we get here? Where do we want to go? And how do we get there? So, step 1, who are we? In your small groups, you'll take turns introducing yourselves. You might consider answering questions like, what's your name? Where are you from? What's your occupation? Why are you attending this Eco Forum? What do you hope to gain from participating? We think it's important to get a sense of who's in the group, the background and the skills, the interest that you bring to the table. We recommend spending about 10 minutes on this portion of the discussion. Step 2, we're going to ask, where are we? So we're going to assess our current context with respect to the theme of the day: law, economies, farming, education, communities. And you might consider answering questions like this: what problems do we face? What makes this a problem? Who is it a problem for? Why should we care about this problem? Are there any positive aspects of our current civilization that we should retain in an ecological civilization? The purpose of this part of the discussion is to provide a common starting place out of which solutions are developed. We recommend spending about 20 minutes on this section. Step 3. How did we get here? Here you'll identify and analyze the root causes of the problems that were described in stage 2, in the contextualizing stage. You might consider answering questions like, where are we now and how did we get here? What is the paradigm or the narrative at play in our current civilization? What civilizational systems are at play? So what policies, what practices, and power dynamics are at play? What values and worldviews are at play? What philosophical assumptions drive our current context? What people and groups are driving forces? Only when we understand the underlying causes can we find adequate solutions to our complex problems. That's the goal of step 3. We recommend spending about 30 minutes on this stage. Step 4. Where do we want to go? Here, you're invited to outline a constructive vision for the future. Be bold and be creative. Have fun with this. Describe this alternative future. Think 25, 50, or even 100 years to the future. You might consider answering questions like, if the problems described earlier are solved, what would the world look like? How would things be different? What are the features of an ecological civilization? What are the short-term, the medium-term, and the long-term goals that might serve as milestones to mark our path toward success? Knowing where we want to go, our desired destination, will provide direction for the kinds of actions that we need to take in the present. We recommend spending about 30 minutes on this section of the discussion. Step 5. How do we get there? Here, you're invited to outline the way forward. As a group, we'll develop a roadmap that should include step-by-step plans for addressing the root causes of our current crisis so that we can build an ecological civilization. You might consider answering questions like, what systems and structures are needed for an ecological civilization? What resources are needed? What values and worldviews should guide us? What allies are needed? Who are some potential allies? And where do we go from here? We recommend spending about 30 minutes on this discussion. Together, this 2-hour session will deepen and widen understanding about the kinds of values, the worldviews, policies, and actions needed to transition toward an ecological civilization. We recommend downloading a PDF copy of the guide from the conference website. We've created a space in this guide for you to take notes in the document directly, either a printed version or the PDF itself. Your notes are key. Each group may want to assign a note taker. Small group notes should be sent to the conference organizers through the conference website. These notes will be collected by the conference organizers and synthesized into a community statement on ecological civilization. We also hope that proposals from Step 5, the How Do We Get There section, will guide a series of concrete projects and actions toward building an ecological civilization. So come ready and be prepared to engage, because your voice can make a difference for the long-term well-being of people on the planet.